Have you ever been in a room full of people or sitting with a group of friends and you quietly decided to just stop talking, just to see if anyone would actually notice your silence? And the quiet, sinking feeling that settles in your chest when nobody does. Most people might just talk louder or playfully call it out to pull the focus back. But if you're a certain kind of person, you do something else entirely. You just quietly fade out. You let the sentence trail off. From the outside, people probably praise you for how you handle yourself. You're likely known as the independent one, the lone maintenance friend, the partner who never demands too much, the employee who just puts their head down, reads the room, and delivers without ever needing hand-holding or constant validation. Society looks at this and calls it maturity. They assume you just prefer to stay out of the spotlight, that you're naturally self-sufficient, or that you simply have a quiet personality. But underneath that easygoing, agreeable exterior, there's a completely different mechanism at work. This is not just a personality quirk, and it is certainly not a lack of ambition or desire. It's a deeply ingrained pattern. It's the psychology of a child who felt ignored. And there's so much more going on beneath your independence than people realize. To understand why you instinctively shrink your needs today, we have to look at how the human brain processes attention and connection. In developmental psychology, attention is not just a nice bonus for a child, it's a biological necessity. Neuroscience shows us that a child's brain develops through a process called mirroring. When a child bids for connection by speaking, showing a drawing, or expressing an emotion, and an adult responds with attuned attention, the child's nervous system regulates. It feels safe. It learns that it exists and that its existence matters. But when those bids for connection are met with chronic unresponsiveness, the brain registers it as a threat. Studies on emotional neglect reveal that a lack of response activates the same pain matrices in the brain as physical injury. Cortisol spikes, the amygdala goes on high alert. To a developing nervous system, being unseen equates to being unprotected. The brain literally sounds an alarm, signaling that survival is at risk. This dynamic rarely looks like a dramatic movie scene. It's often quiet, and the intention behind it is rarely cruel. Often, the adults in the room were simply exhausted. They were overworked, distracted, or drowning in their own unhealed stress. They were not actively trying to cause harm, but the impact on a developing nervous system is profound, regardless of the intention. If you grew up in an environment where your voice was consistently talked over, where your presence was an afterthought, or where you were only noticed when you were perfectly quiet and out of the way, your brain had to solve a very painful problem. It realized that reaching out for connection hurt too much. So your nervous system made a brilliant, tragic calculation. It adapted. You learned that the safest way to exist was to need nothing. You learned to self-soothe, to figure things out on your own, and to become invisible. It was not a preference, it was a survival strategy. It's important to state clearly that this response is not better or worse than any other. Some children adapt to emotional scarcity by acting out, becoming loud, disruptive, and rebellious. Others adapt by becoming hyper-dependent, and some adapt by turning inward and becoming entirely self-reliant. Different nervous systems are simply wired differently based on what works best in their specific environment. There's no moral failing here. There's no right or wrong way a child tries to survive an emotional desert. Your brain did exactly what it was supposed to do to protect you. But this creates a fascinating and painful paradox in your adult life. Because you learned early on that simply being yourself was not enough to guarantee connection, you may have developed a mask of high performance. This is a common echo in adult relationships and workplaces. You become the overachiever, the perfectionist, the one who earns recognition through output rather than just existing. You chase accomplishments, hoping that maybe this degree, this promotion, or this endless act of service for your partner will finally make you visible. You become the ultimate giver, anticipating everyone else's needs because you're terrified of being overlooked again. Yet the quiet cost of this strategy is that even when people praise you, it feels profoundly empty. You feel like they're applauding your utility, not your humanity. You're loved for what you provide, not for who you are. And at the exact same time, the moment someone actually tries to look closely at the real you, the moment they pause, look you in the eye, and ask, "How are you really?" you panic, you deflect, you feel incredibly exposed. The very thing you've starved for your entire life, undivided attention, is the exact thing your nervous system now registers as dangerous. You want to be seen, but you're terrified of being perceived. If you're recognizing yourself in this, please know that you are not broken. Your struggles with overthinking, with chronic stress, and with the sheer exhaustion of reading every room you walk into make perfect sense. Your invisibility was a masterpiece of psychological protection. It kept you safe in an environment that didn't know how to hold your voice. This way of being has deep value. It made you observant, deeply empathetic, and incredibly capable. Your sensitivity is a quiet strength. But the environment has changed. You are no longer that child speaking to an empty room. The path forward doesn't require you to suddenly demand the spotlight or change your entire personality. It often begins very quietly, just with yourself. It begins with the simple, profound act of recognizing your own needs without instantly dismissing them. It's about offering yourself the exact presence you were denied. Sometimes breaking the echo of the past means finishing your sentence even if someone looks away. It means realizing that small acts of presence can change a life, and the first life you have to practice being present for is your own. If this felt like someone finally put words to a feeling you have carried for a very long time, stay with me. There's much more here to quietly understand.